Welcome in, everybody.
Sorry.
Oh, man. Come on, man.
Amateurs. Danny, let's run our own show.
You're making me jab stuff here and pump fake. All right. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin. I'm here with James Haskell, and we're welcoming once again draft experts Craig and Danny Henzelka from Hands Pick. And this time we're breaking down a position everyone loves to talk about. It's fun. It's flashy. It's the running back position. And we know with the injury to Mark Ingram in the playoffs last year, it showed that the Ravens could at least use some depth there. And look, when you're the number one running team in the entire league, it never hurts to add a running back. So I'm predicting that they'll add at least one somewhere in the draft. And I think Jimmy, well, I don't know if he's totally in agreement, but I think he's a little on the fence there. Oh, that's right. No, he does think we're going to get one. Yeah. And it's right in his background, peering over his shoulder.
That's right.
Terrifying. So, Jimmy, why don't you let us know, what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, from a running back standpoint, I am on the bandwagon, or I am in the camp that thinks that this position is more important for us, just like I said about offensive linemen, especially interior offensive line, than a regular team, based on the fact that we're not going to shy away. Last year was not an anomaly. It is going to be the new norm for the Ravens until it is no longer the new norm with our quarterback, right? So with that being said, we're always going to need a stable. I'm also in the camp that is done with Justice Hill. Just done. So
1 year?
I'm just done. So
I didn't see much out of his rookie year. I'll be honest. I didn't see no shake. I didn't see he couldn't break an arm tackle.
So with that being said, I know that there are some solid draft picks that have overall in the mocks that we've all seen being taken early in the draft. So we want to get, obviously, your guys' opinion on those guys. But I have projected Zach Moss out of the University of Utah going to the Ravens in the late third round. I think he's a great fit as far as his overall ability to catch the pass, to block the rush, and to run the ball primarily. So that's what I think is going to happen. I might be crazy. You guys might think that. But why don't we start here? Let us know. What we'll do is we'll go from out wide, and then we'll narrow it down. So let's start with the prospects that you guys see on the board that would be worthy of playing for the Ravens and wearing the purple and black. So, Danny, we'll start with you.
All right, so some players I think that would fit the Ravens that I think the Ravens are looking for. I think Jonathan Taylor is a big one. They're looking for speed. He's 4'3", and he's a power back. Maybe DeAndre Swift, a nice receiving back who has some speed. Clyde Edwards-Hilaire is a gem of this draft. He is every facet of being a running back he excels at. J.K. Dobbins is a guy who brings some speed, has little too tight of hips for me, but he knows how to run the ball. Antonio Gibson, 220 pounds, ran a 4.3 40. I would love to say Zach Moss, but I just don't think he has the speed for the Ravens. Sorry, Jimmy.
That's all right.
And maybe the hometown pick, maybe Antonio McFarland. He runs vicious. Almost looks like you're watching either Marshawn Lynch or Alex Collins, that vicious running style where he just steps and goes.
Well, you mentioned a guy that I really like, Gibson, later on in the draft. He's also projected to he did a little bit of slot, and we know he did some returning. Do you project him to be a running back, or will he be a kind of jack of all trades when he gets to the next level?
Antonio Gibson is going to be drafted as a weapon. He is going to be a return man. He is going to be a wide receiver. He's going to be running back. Who knows? Maybe he'll play some tackle. Maybe Lamar Jackson gets tired. They say, hey, Antonio Gibson, do you want to take this ball and just try to get by 11 people? And he'll say, sure thing, coach, and then he'll score a touchdown. He's just that kind of guy where he is just so versatile and is not something you see every draft.
Well, let me ask you something, Craig. He mentioned Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. It's a guy I absolutely love. I love guys that play big in big games, and he certainly did that for the national champion Tigers. So why is it that I'm seeing him projected in the third to fourth round, whereas I see Dobbins, Swift, and Taylor going from rounds 1 to 2? What is it he lacks that those guys have?
He lacks nothing, Mr. Glenn Martin. He is my second favorite running back. Edwards Hilaire, his adjusted spark is a 0.6, so he's better than 60% of running back. So he doesn't have that limitation. I will say his top speed is not ideal. He's not a 4.39 like Jonathan Taylor. But, man, his lateral quickness is insane. And I was watching him, and this analyst said, he teleported over to the hole. And when you watch the play, he makes like 3 cuts going left, and he goes from an A gap on the right side all the way over to behind the tight end in half a second. And it's amazing. And there's another play where he's running, he gets the ball, he spins before the guy even gets to the ball, and the guy just tackles air. He is phenomenal. He's my second favorite guy. Great routes, great hands, great lateral movement, great power, and he's smart when he's using it. Like, he knows when he's keyed up on a corner, he's going to run that dude over. And when he's going against a linebacker or a lineman, he's going to throw a spin or a double move and just make people miss. I love everything about him. He should be gone in the early second, and I would love for him to be on our team despite his lack of a top speed.
All right. Hold on a second. I'm just going to back it up here.
Go ahead.
Because I got a bone to pick with you, Danny. All right. So
dog on a bone.
That's right. So listen here. I'm just going to read you a couple things. But before I read you a couple things, make sure your lunchbox is packed, okay? Because even in the midst of coronavirus, we're going to school, my friend. All right? So this is the thing. Zach Moss came into the combine horribly prepared, not by choice, based on the fact that the schedule had changed on him in the last minute. He thought he was running the 40 early in the process, ended up running it that night. Totally changed up on him under 24 hours before he was going to run. He improved that run and he dropped it by 0.13, ran a 4.52, faster than Mark Ingram ran in the combine. Just saying. Number 2, I'm going to read some things to you, okay? So in an injury-shortened season, of course, he was an All-American. He's the first player in University of Utah history with 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 1,000-plus yard seasons. In this past year alone, he broke 6 school records with 712 career rushing attempts, 4,167 career yards, and over 18 games with 100 rushing yards.
A lot of usage.
8 all-purpose touchdowns, and tied for 2 or more of the most 200-yard rushing games in school history. So, and of course, he was the Pac-12 Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year. So this is what I will say. The Ravens take guys that produce in college. They like production. So
wait, Ozzie did, right? Not DeCosta, because if I remember correctly, DeCosta said he wants to add speed to this offense.
Faster than Mark Ingram.
He wants to get guys that are very durable at the running back position. How's that Moss with durability?
Sure. How would anyone be with durability when they're their whole entire offense and they got 9 people in the box? All right. So all I'm going to say is that I really think that this kid is a perfect fit when it comes to grit. I don't think it hurts that he's a Southern Florida boy. I'm sure he already knows Lamar. He's been around Lamar. He can, like I said, his all-around capabilities. He doesn't do anything bad. Nothing. Tell me one thing he does bad.
If he did all that stuff you just mentioned at San Diego State, how would you feel about him?
I wouldn't have watched him as much. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Would you be fighting on your hill like you are?
I wouldn't. But look, but what I'm saying is I think that goes for anyone. The same thing goes for McFarland at Maryland.
Well, look, I'm not going to stand up here and fight for McFarland.
But I'm telling you, Zach has got what it takes to be a very successful running back in the NFL. And I think he would be an awesome addition to the stable and an upgrade from Justice Hill. That's for dang sure.
All right, so Jimmy, here's my question about Zach Moss. From here, I see his adjusted spark is 30. So there's 70% of running backs are more athletic than him.
Sure.
What makes him the guy that you want to draft? I don't want to hear production because there's people that are on teams that get great production. You just pointed out the 1,000 yards in 3 years. That's great. That's fantastic. That's awesome. But what does he show you on tape that makes you think, man, he's worth this pick? And what do you think?
Really simple. Watch any team play against the University of Utah offense, and they dare them to throw the football. He turns around and hands Zach the ball, and he still gets 6 yards. In our offense, where we have Lamar and some decent weapons and a legitimate scheme, and we don't have a high schooler running our offense, it's going to be a little different. I have never had faith in University of Utah's offensive coordinator. Their whole staff has never been great from the offensive side of the ball. And he was still, amongst all those odds, he was still productive. That just was incredible to me because these aren't pedestrian numbers, and they didn't do anything but hand him the ball off and say, do your thing. Here you go.
Jimmy, I'm going to jump in to defend you, actually, because I do have Zach Moss. I think he is the sleeper running back of the draft for sure.
I think he's really good.
He's got great vision. He's got amazing balance. I just don't think that he fits the Ravens. I think if we were the Seattle Seahawks and we were looking for a running back and we just wanted someone who could run the ball and just a workhorse back, I would say, yeah, Zach Moss is the guy. But if you're the Ravens and you have two backs who are good carriers of the ball, but you don't have that home run guy, you're not going to go and take Zach Moss in the second or third round when what you're looking for is a guy that can take the top off from the backfield.
That's true. That's a good point. I don't want to make this whole segment about Zach Moss, but this is the last thing I'll say. I'm terrible at not getting the last word in. Really quickly, is that Ozzie has drafted and sometimes been redundant in his draft picks. He's introduced plenty of redundancy based on players' ability in the past. So we've been secured a position, then he's plugged in another guy via draft that does a lot of the same things. And sometimes they're head scratchers. A lot of times they pay off. So I'm just saying redundancy might not be a bad thing based on the potential injury, age, attrition, and the volume of carries. So anyway, let's get to your other guys. I want to get the last word in, so take that and let's move on. Glenn, what do you got?
Okay, all right. Well, some mocks I've seen have predicted that the Ravens are going to be going running back in the first round, which I think would surprise a number of Ravens fans, seeing as though we already have Mark Ingram getting paid a pretty handsome contract to do that. But if that were to be the case, if they were to take a guy at 28 at the running back position, Craig, who do you see will still be there at 28 that could also be a value and a fit for the Ravens?
I think everyone could be there. I think all these running backs probably are early second day, like early second round even. If I was there and I was the Ravens, I know DeCosta talked about speed and having that home run threat, and I'm pretty sure that's why they drafted Hill. So you get someone like Jonathan Taylor who's super powerful, super balanced, and when he breaks a hole, he flies. 4.39, he's in the .96 adjusted spark. He is a little tight hip-wise. He'll make one cut, but he's not going to do multiple cuts or amazing things laterally like Hilaire. But the only problem with him is he's got a ton of wear. He doesn't really have too many durability issues, but just having 300 plus carries over and over, that does make him a liability. And I know DeCosta was kind of talking about durable running backs. The only other one that I like in the first round is I really do like Hilaire, and I talked about him. He's just got so many tools in his box, and he's so smart about how he uses it. I think he could be a first rounder. I really do like Swift and Dobbins and Akers for different reasons, and I'll get to talk about that later. But I think Hilaire and Jonathan Taylor are the only two that I could see in the first round. Swift maybe just because he's so much prowess with his great hands, great pass blocking. He does everything right, but he just adds that other element of just being a great receiver. And his cuts and spins and his speed is just very good too. But I really like Hilaire as one and Jonathan Taylor 1, Hilaire 2, and then Swift is my number 3. But besides that, I don't see anyone else going in the first.
All right, so the other question I have to that is, and I agree with you, obviously it would be nice to introduce some versatility into the backfield as far as like your home run hitter, because we have those in between the tackles, get you 5 to 7 yards type guys. And if we are going to go that way with the Ravens, based on home run hitting capability, who would be the top guy in your camp, Danny, just based on that metric, if you will, the guy that can, that has the best chance of breaking one for 70, for 80, has that breakaway speed.
Yeah, right before I answer that, let me expand on what Craig was saying as well. If you look at the draft the last 5 years, running backs do not really get picked that much. It's a rarity anymore for them to go twice in the first round. It takes a really special guy. Even if they're graded and they're an elite player, it takes a special type of running back to be picked in the first round now. And to your question, a guy I could see that could really take the top off, it's J.K. Dobbins. He's a guy that you'll watch him and it will be like, I'm not even a big J.K. Dobbins guy, he'll take the ball and it'll be like 2 yards, it'll be 5 yards, it'll be something a little bit, and then out of nowhere he'll just pop one off and go for 70 yards, and then it's back to 3, 5, 2, 4, and then it's another one for 50 yards. And it's once he gets going, once he hits that hole, it's so hard to stop him because he's so big and strong and fast at the same time.
You know who Dobbins reminds me of? If you watch Ray Rice, Dobbins is like 15 pounds heavier than him coming out of college. Dobbins reminds me a lot of him, but Ray Rice in like year 3 when he put on a little weight. Dobbins is just he's got mobility in his hips. He's able to cut, do a double move. Well, something he does really well that a lot of running backs don't is when he is in a short passing play, he really is good at finding zones and sitting in them, something that Ray Rice did amazingly with Flacco because Flacco would get under pressure and just dump it off. And when Dobbins gets a dump off in space, like Danny said, he breaks it open. So Dobbins, for some reason, reminds me a lot of Ray Rice. And I even went back to Ray Rice's profile, and a lot of similarities, just explosive, fast, good catching intermediate and short passes, just very similar.
Well, Danny, I was curious. Outside of that top group of guys, is there a guy even in the third round, maybe second or third round, that fits that role of what we need? Because if we're in win now mode, it's great to get one of those running backs high that you look, going forward that could really help. But is there a guy maybe they could get a little bit later, maybe third round or so, that could fill that need? They need a guy, to me, that has a little bit of wiggle. They brought in Justice Hill to be that guy, to be the pass catcher, to be the make you miss guy. But I don't know. I know it's only the first year, but I didn't really see that out of him. I didn't see him making many guys miss. Is there a guy in the third round that could come in, catch the ball out of the backfield, while also being able to pass protect and also shake a couple guys out of the backfield?
There aren't a lot of guys that are totally rounded where they can pass block and they can receive and they can make a man miss. Hilaire is one of those, but like we said, he'll probably be a second-round pick. And, you might be wishful thinking because come draft time, it might be a Rashad Penny situation where someone just loves him and takes him in the first round. Cam Akers out of Florida State is a guy that ran a 4.4, has got a little bit of wiggle, can catch. Not too confident in his pass blocking right now. A guy we said earlier is Antonio Gibson, who's 6'2", 220. He's got that size to block. He can catch. He played wide receiver in college. He's got the 4.3 speed. I just don't know what I'm missing on this guy. I don't know why he's not being mocked higher in drafts. And maybe come draft time, someone falls in love with him and takes him earlier than that.
Hey, Craig, I was curious about one thing. You mentioned that production or overuse in college can sometimes be a detriment to your draft status. How do you compare the difference between a guy like Antonio Gibson? He only had 70-some touches. Now, he scored 14 touchdowns on those 70-some touches, which is insane. But how do you compare him to someone like a Zach Moss or a Taylor who just gets so many more opportunities to put up these gaudy numbers?
So the good thing is when you get guys like Jonathan Taylor that touch the ball 300 times, you know what you're getting. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You know that Jonathan Taylor has a lot of power. You know he's fast. You know he's at home run ability. You know he can read gaps. With Gibson, with such a small sample size, you don't know if he just got lucky a few times and it just looks overly good. That's why you really got to study the plays that he does have and really, really put your nose to the tape and just make sure that this wasn't an accident. Because if, let's say, he got a few times when he should have got tackled and he just got out of it and got a few extra touchdowns, that makes him so much more efficient because its sample size is so small. So what I try to do personally is I see what they were in control of. If someone tackled them and they just happened to get hit by someone else, which kept them up, that's not really – I mean, you give them a little bit of points for keeping balance, but they didn't really break a tackle. They were kept up by another player. So it's just little things like this, trying to see what they did in their power that made them successful.
All right, what about this? So we've kind of laid out the different types of guys that we want the Ravens to get, the fits and things like that, and then obviously the players overall. Where do you guys see the Ravens spending a pick on a running back based on the running backs you see in this draft? You see them going first, second, third, or later on fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh. What are you guys leaning towards? I'll start with you, Danny.
I'm sorry, I zoned out. Can you repeat the question?
Totally fine. So
I think of Zach Moss and his gameplay.
I do the same thing. I just daydream about Zach Moss. So so based on the players that are in this draft, and your experience with the Ravens, where do you see them pulling the trigger? In what round do you see them pulling the trigger on a running back?
Well, this draft is so top heavy. Usually I would say Ravens wait, right? They wait till like 4th round. They wait for someone to fall, and they snatch that guy up. But this one is so top heavy, and they have such a specific thing they want, and they're so in win now mode where they think they're 1 piece away or 2 pieces away. If there's a J.K. Dobbins, or if there's a Jonathan Taylor, or if there's one of the guys they value highly, I could see a 2nd round, maybe a early 3rd round pick. If it's someone they value and they think we can bring this guy in now and he can help us win a Super Bowl this year.
All right. What about you, Craig? You agree? Disagree?
No, I actually completely agree. I was thinking about it when I was looking at tapes of running backs, and running backs is something that you can get late, because if you get an athlete that is as good at playing tag, basically they can get away from people when they're very evasive. You can have a guy that's a star, because the pass blocking and the pass catching, that's always a huge plus. But if you get a guy that can dominate on down 1 and down 2, that's great. And there's been Chris Ivory is a great example, undrafted guy that's bounced around the league just because he's so good at down 1 and down 2. And yeah, he worked on his catching a bit, but he's just so dominant down 1 and 2. He made a name for himself. I really think for the Ravens, usually you'd go later, like Danny said, but you've been preaching yourself, Jimmy, that it's win now. And there's not many positions that can instantly change a team like a running back. Think of Ezekiel. Think of Saquon Barkley. Obviously, Saquon didn't make his team an all-pro team, but obviously he contributed a ton. So if you really want someone to contribute now, running back is one of those spots that they can pay early dividends real quickly. So I could definitely see 2nd and 3rd round.
Okay. The other thing I think that holds true is that running backs don't take long to develop in the NFL. Like that jump is not as wide as it is for maybe a receiver or another position where it takes a couple of years to develop. So that's a good point.
Can I ask Craig a question really quick?
You can.
Craig, do you think there's a Zeke Elliott or a Saquon? Do you have Jonathan Taylor or Hilaire rated that high?
Uh-oh.
Do you have
No, I don't, because I love Jonathan Taylor. I love his speed to power, and I love what he can do with the ball, and I love how he reads his line. But with that much wear, I can't. No, because there's no guy in this draft that's a top 5 pick running back. And I do think Edwards-Hilaire, I think he's worth the 1st round just because he can do so much. But running backs just aren't valued as much. So I don't think there's anyone here that's just like day 1, get him on your fantasy teams. This guy's going to explode. But I do think there's a lot of guys here that will contribute and put up some big numbers this year.
Okay, because you said those names, my eyes got big, and I was like, which player is he talking about? Who's going to be a Saquon Barkley here?
I think if you draft Edwards-Hilaire to the right team, and to be honest, out of all the guys, I think Jonathan Taylor fits us best, because with Lamar's misdirection, that opens holes. And Jonathan Taylor has the speed. He is 4.39. Once he's going, he's a bullet, man. He's so fast. It's hard to bring him down once he starts moving. With the holes already open because of Lamar, that's a perfect fit. I think Hilaire would do a lot of things for us and just open a lot of versatility, but I don't think anyone is going to do it better than Jonathan Taylor. I do think Swift has some passing prowess, which could help us out too. But
one guy I'm curious about. I don't know if he fits necessarily what the Ravens are looking for, but it's a guy that's just an incredible athlete and just physical specimen, and that's A.J. Dillon out of Boston College. This guy, he does, to be 250 pounds, he certainly doesn't look it. The guy carries his weight well, power back. The production a couple years ago was out of this world. I know, Craig, you're real passionate about A.J. Dillon, so I'll let you start here, because I know if Danny starts, you'll be gnawing at the bit there. What are your thoughts on A.J. Dillon?
Well, A.J. Dillon, he is a day 3 guy. He is, I think, a 4th rounder. He is a mix between, if you think of Gus Edwards and Brandon Jacobs, how they can just pound it and they kill teams. But then he has that speed to turn it on. So to me, he's he has that elite power to just slam. He's a short yardage specialist. You think of Gus Edwards, he didn't get knocked. He didn't get tackled for a loss that much, if ever. that's kind of what Dillon does, but Dillon is different because Dillon is a .97 on adjusted spark, so he's a freak athlete. If he gets through that hole, especially with Lamar's redirection, he could fly down the field with some power. And there's no safety or corner that's going to have a clean hit and slow him down. I think he's a freak athlete, short yardage specialist, but I think he has the capability to do more. And even though I said I don't think we'll draft Zach Moss, even though I like Zach Moss better, I think Dillon can do what Gus does, but better because he's got the home run threat with more speed. But the only difference is I think we can get Dillon for a lot less. I think we can get Dillon in the 4th or 5th, where Zach Moss would be a 3rd, even though I think Zach Moss is better than Dillon. But I think Dillon would fit better.
Man, there's no way that guy squats with the other guys with the other running backs on the team. He is with the linemen. Jeez.
Powerful.
My goodness. Well, that was really exciting. I'm excited for the running backs to come off the board here. Glenn, you got any other questions for the experts?
I got to ask one. This is a Maryland podcast, so I think it was you, Danny, that mentioned or that you watched Anthony McFarland. What are your thoughts on him as a prospect and if he fits with the Ravens?
Yes, so Anthony McFarland is such a frustrating guy to watch because you watch him and he makes cuts and he puts his foot in the ground and goes and he looks like Alex Collins or Marshawn Lynch and he runs a 4.40. He's a freak athlete, but he has trouble getting by some defenders. Part of me wants to blame that Maryland O-line because a lot of times he would get the ball and there'd be 2 guys in the backfield as soon as he touched it. So he's a guy, he would be a big boomer bust guy. I mean, he would fit with the Ravens with that 4.4 speed. He's got good size. He looks the part, but I don't know if he can actually do it on the field. And there's also those injury concerns that you always are worried about.
Yeah, I think he battled a high ankle last year. But is he a guy that you could see going late in the rounds that you think could fit what they're looking for?
Yeah, I could see him on day 3. If they're getting desperate, people they wanted got picked right before him, or maybe they just want to take a shot on a Maryland guy. I could see him in definitely day 3 would be when I think they would take him.
All right. Yeah, I couldn't pass up getting a little bit of talk about a Maryland Terp, Gotta love the Terps. But that's it. Unless you have anything else, Jimmy.
No, I'm good to go.
Okay, well then that's it for us this time. Thanks again to Craig and Danny from Hands Pick for coming on and breaking down the running backs for us. We do appreciate it. If you like the video, please make sure you click the like button. Make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you get the most updated videos on our channel. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, guys.